and still as fast as lightning.
Yeah, the power that he possesses, but it's not a thumping power. It's that explosive speed, that explosive power, the footwork he gets in position, and all of a sudden he's landed 3, 4, 5 shots and then he's angled off. A lot like I did in my fight against Lopez.
Inoue have very fast. Yeah, it's a competition. It's a very strong guy.
Brings out a big crowd, doesn't he? He's an absolute superstar in world boxing.
Joe Rogan just witnessed something that left him speechless. The podcast king, who's seen every legendary fighter from Mike Tyson to John Jones, watched Naoya now demolish Alan Picasso, and his reaction says everything about what we just witnessed. Rogan's calling Inoue a true legend of the sport, and honestly, that might be underselling it. When you've got someone who's commentated thousands of fights getting genuinely excited about footwork and movement, you know you're watching something special. Rogan's breaking down how Inoue's feet move like he's floating, how he glides in and out of range like he's playing a completely different sport than his opponents. But here's what really got Rogan fired up: the power. He's saying it's completely unmatched for the division, and when you consider Inoue's fighting at super bantamweight, that's terrifying. Most fighters have to choose between speed and power. Inoue said, why not both, and added precision that makes surgeons jealous.
Excited. Yeah, he's a legend of the sport.
He is a legend, and he's such.
But wait until you hear what Alexander Usyk had to say about this performance. The heavyweight champion of the world, the guy who just beat Tyson Fury twice, took time to praise a fighter who weighs literally half what he does. And Usyk's reaction? Pure respect mixed with what looked like genuine amazement. When they asked him about Inoue's performance against Picasso, Usyk actually paused and smiled before answering. That pause tells you everything. This is a man who's faced Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, and every elite heavyweight on the planet, and he's taking a moment to process what he just watched. I like Naoya very fast, Usyk said, but it's how he said it that matters. Then he drops this bomb, calls Inoue a very strong guy despite competing in lighter weight classes. Coming from someone who punches harder than almost anyone alive, that's not just praise, that's recognition from one legend to another. Usyk's talking about how Inoue's power, speed, and balance make him dangerous at all times. And you can see in his eyes that he's genuinely impressed by what this smaller fighter can do.
Here, the unified heavyweight champion of the world, Alexander Usyk. Alexander, you're watching another pound-for-pound fighter in Inoue. Have you been impressed with his performance so far?
Yeah, I like this is show Nakatani fight great with Mexican guy Inoue. I happy.
What do you think Inoue needs to do to get the stoppage?
I not think about this. I just watch fight. Maybe Inoue next fight going up. Maybe, I don't know. I think it's normal. Because, Inoue have very fast. Yeah, it's a competition.
Now here's where the technical breakdown gets absolutely wild. Boxing analyst Henry dissected this fight frame by frame, and what he found exposes exactly why Picasso never had a chance. Picasso came in with what looked like solid defensive discipline, high guard, gloves protecting his chin, doing everything his corner probably drilled into him for months. But Henry spotted the fatal flaw immediately. Picasso's elbows were positioned too far forward, and in boxing, that's like leaving your front door wide open with a sign that says, "Rob me." Inoue saw that opening and exploited it mercilessly, landing devastating body shots that had Picasso wincing by round 3. But here's the kicker. It wasn't just about finding the opening. It was about Inoue's lead hand sharpness and speed that made those body shots so destructive. Henry's explaining how Inoue maintained complete unpredictability while systematically breaking down Picasso's defense. The power difference wasn't just noticeable, it was embarrassing. Picasso would land clean shots that barely registered, while Inoue's punches were moving Picasso around the ring like he was made of cardboard. Henry emphasized that Inoue's combination of offensive precision and defensive awareness put him in complete control from the opening bell. And honestly, watching the replay, it looked like a master class in how to dismantle someone without even breathing hard.
When I saw the two men get into the ring, the first thing that I noticed straight away was Picasso was carrying an incredibly high guard, defensively keeping his gloves very, very high, trying to protect his chin. And one thing I'll say in general about Picasso in this fight is that his defensive awareness was very, very impressive. He very rarely dropped his hands after he threw a shot. His discipline was incredibly good. But the problem with that is that sometimes it leaves a lack of room for creativity with fighters. Yes, it's important to be defensively disciplined, but if you continue to give the same look over and over again, you're never ever going to beat a guy like Inoue. The first thing I said at the beginning of my live about this guy was I looked at him and I went, his elbows are incredibly flared. You know, he had the high guard, but his elbows was very, very far forwards, which instantly made me think he's giving the body to Inoue. He's offering it to him. Now, that can sometimes be done because it's to create counter-punching opportunities. But in this instance, I think it was just that he was so concerned about protecting his head, about not getting knocked out with a shot to the head, that the body was there all night for Inoue, and Inoue took it. He took the invitation, and he constantly stabbed to the body of Picasso. And in fact, I'd say that this fight kind of was a story of the body shots in many ways. Picasso, like Inoue, had most of his success to the body. The left hook in particular was a money shot for Picasso. But the difference between these two men was so obvious to see when they were standing in the pocket and they were exchanging left hooks in particular to the body. The impact of Inoue's shots was totally different from Picasso's. It was like Picasso had cushions, pillows inside his gloves, and Inoue had a bloody egg weight. It was damaging, it was vicious, and Picasso simply couldn't hang in the pocket for long periods of time with Inoue. I mentioned the lead hand of Inoue there to the body, but the lead hand of Inoue in general in this fight was incredible to see. I mean, the sharpness, the speed on it, the different levels that he throws it from. It's unbelievably unpredictable and difficult to read as a shot, and it allows him to control fights. One thing that I've noticed about Inoue, having watched him for a little while now, and something I think he definitely does on purpose, is he lowers himself to the level of what's in front of him at times, because he wants you to open up so he can counter you and land large shots on you, ones that you don't see coming, so that he can knock you out. He's good enough to be able to do that and keep himself safe at the same time. What was testament to this was Inoue's movement is exquisite, it's exceptional. There were moments when he was using that jab that I just mentioned, dancing around the ring, using that lateral movement, popping the head of Picasso regularly, easily landing on him with that jab. I mean, Picasso was forced to keep a high guard at all times because the power of Inoue is so good that even when he's in motion, he will hurt you. But the testament to this idea that Inoue will...
Then Mike Tyson weighed in, and when Iron Mike calls someone the monster, you better pay attention. Tyson's seen it all, fought it all, and knocked out legends most of us only read about in history books. So when he says Inoue is faster, stronger, and more precise than many champions he's witnessed, that's not casual praise, that's a legendary seal of approval. But Tyson didn't stop there. He made a claim that's going to have boxing purists arguing for years. He said Inoue is better than Manny Pacquiao in his prime. Let that sink in for a second. Manny Pacquiao, the 8-division world champion, the Pac-Man, the fighter who defined an entire era of boxing. Tyson's saying this Japanese monster is better than prime Pac-Man. Tyson's breaking down Inoue's power, footwork, and ring IQ as unmatched for the division, and coming from someone who terrorized heavyweight divisions, that's the kind of endorsement that changes careers. When Mike Tyson calls you unmatched, you've officially entered legendary status, and Inoue's doing it while making it look effortless.
I call monks. This monks. Crazy dude. That mean son of a. Oh yeah, you see this bad motherfucker. Don't look like monks. He's better than Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao was good like that. Just as good.
He looks like a fucking pop star.
Oh, wait till he get on these.
The most efficient hunting machine in all of boxing.
He's vicious. That's a bad guy he beat too. Broke him down. Ooh.
118?
Paulie Malignaggi dropped some serious insight about what's next for Inoue, and his analysis reveals something most people missed. Malignaggi noted that while Inoue's dominance was clear against Picasso, future opponents like Nakatani are going to have to respect his power even more than previous challengers. But here's what's interesting. Malignaggi pointed out that Inoue took Picasso the full 12 rounds, and he's wondering if that was strategic. Was Inoue getting rounds under his belt? Was he working on specific techniques? Because let's be honest, if Inoue wanted to end that fight early, Picasso would have been on the canvas by round 6. Malignaggi's imagining a fight going the distance with someone like Nakatani and calling it incredible, highlighting Inoue's stamina and consistency that most knockout artists don't possess. But get this, Malignaggi observed that Inoue might have been holding back his right hand slightly, possibly due to a minor issue, though nothing was officially confirmed. Think about that for a second. Inoue might have been fighting with one hand partially compromised and still dominated every single round. That's not just skill, that's supernatural boxing ability that makes him a nightmare matchup for anyone in the division.
Not that I was picking Nakatani or Inoue yet. I really hadn't made up my mind who would win between them. I thought it was a good fight anyway. I don't think it's an easy fight to pick, but I do think that I do think that it's a completely different style. You're going to see Inoue fight with Nakatani than you did Hernandez today. You know, I thought Nakatani did a solid job of, again, getting off those good punches, hard punches. It was just he couldn't get the respect, and that's something that will lead you to think something's going into the Inoue fight. But remember, Inoue does get hurt. Inoue has been down at this weight class, so you land those hard shots, clean hard shots like that on Inoue. I think he's gonna have to respect that power of Nakatani more so than Hernandez did today. Now, Naoya Inoue took on David Picasso in another surprising result in that this one also went the distance. Can you imagine Nakatani and Inoue both going the distance? Would have been crazy odds if you're a gambler. But Inoue won the fight going away. I don't know. He didn't get asked the question in the post-fight interview, but to me it seemed like Inoue's right hand may have been bothering him. Again, just assuming here because we didn't get any confirmation. It's not like the post-fight interview or the broadcast ever actually brought out something that was obvious, which was that Inoue was actually not throwing his right hand many times when he could have. Was going left hand heavy. Even when he had Picasso up against the ropes a lot of times, he didn't throw the right hand or barely throw a right hand. So I'm not quite sure that, just my assumption, but I'm not quite sure that anyway he had not at least heard or tweaked his right hand in this fight, and that might be why David Picasso was able to go the distance. But also Picasso did some crafty, clever things, made himself a moving target even when he was standing still. A lot of up and down rotational movement, hip and up and down change of level movement when he was stuck up against the ropes, and when he was in front of Inoue. So Inoue couldn't get to him too clean. When he got stuck against the ropes, also he made himself a small target by staying low. He would change the level by going up and then back down. Just things that weren't giving Inoue any threat to lose the fight, but they were giving Inoue problems as far as tracking him down and getting to him cleanly. Inoue was going to the body very well. I thought Picasso took some really tremendous body.
The numbers don't lie, and Kampu Box just released statistics that are absolutely mind-blowing. Ring Magazine posted that after just 6 rounds, Naoya Inoue had doubled Alan Picasso in punches landed 170-85. Let that number sink in. In half a fight, Inoue landed twice as many punches as his opponent. That's not just winning, that's systematic destruction with surgical precision. These numbers show how Inoue controls the action with relentless pressure that never lets up, precision that makes every shot count, and volume that overwhelms even the most prepared opponents. Picasso was struggling to keep up as the rounds progressed, and you could see the frustration building in his corner. Analyst Liam Goh highlighted something incredible. For the first time in Inoue's career, he's gone back-to-back 12-round fights, showcasing stamina and consistency at the highest level that proves he's not just a knockout artist anymore. Goh's emphasizing how formidable Inoue is offensively, combining precision, speed, and power in ways that make him incredibly difficult to challenge, let alone defeat. Against Picasso, Inoue faced a confident opponent who approached the ring with determination and a solid game plan. Yet Inoue's skill and strategy dominated throughout like Picasso wasn't even there.
Rounds, as in 12-round decisions. Apparently that's never, and judging by how formidable he is offensively and how good he is, it's easy to see why, if that is in fact the case. This fight right here, Alan Picasso came in confident, and you could see it in his approach to the ring. Inoue stoic, and I did like, it was different. You know the way like when you're going to the minute rest and they normally just play whatever. They were playing like kind of samurai music, like Japanese, and I quite liked it. It was quite nice actually. And you're listening to that and you're thinking, actually, I'd rather listen to this than listen to, some of the crap that they play, on most shows in the UK and US during the 1 minute rests. I quite enjoyed it. The whole show as a whole, I enjoy it. I liked the setting. It was actually I really enjoyed it actually. I have to say I really did. It's a really good show. More of them, please. I really like the Asian kind of team in Saudi Arabia. But this fight itself, right? So first round starts, Inoue tends to, he can be a quick starter at times. And we've seen that. We certainly have in first rounds and stuff like that, but not a crazy amount of first round stoppages. If I think off the top of my head, he stopped, I can't remember the guy's name, in a round. I remember that was in the World Boxing Super Series a couple of years ago, many years ago now. But he's not really one for going out there and just blasting you out and around. He might hurt, he might drop you in the first round, but he normally carries you at least into like the second or third round at least. And he was not really doing much in the first round, Inoue. But straight off the bat, you could see that Picasso, He did the high guard and kept the high guard. He tried to punch with Inoue, which is something that you can actually do. It's very risky because Inoue will also punch with you.
Inoue's 2025 campaign has been nothing short of legendary, and his undisputed super bantamweight championship reign is redefining what dominance looks like. Holding all 4 major titles, WBA, WBC, IBF, and WBO, Inoue fought 4 times this year and won every single bout while retaining his undisputed status. But it's not just that he won, it's how he won that has the boxing world buzzing. Earlier in the year, he destroyed Yejun Kim by knockout, followed by a brutal TKO victory over Ramon Cardenas that left fans questioning if anyone in the division can even compete with him. Then he overcame Murodjon Akhmadaliev by unanimous decision in what many thought would be his toughest test, only to make it look routine. And now he's dominated Alan Picasso in a performance that had legends praising his name. These victories highlight Inoue's evolution as a fighter, the speed that makes opponents look frozen, power that ends fights in an instant, and technical skill that's textbook perfect. He's not just remaining at the top of the division, he's lapping the field and making other champions look amateur by comparison. Ending the year as one of boxing's elite pound-for-pound fighters isn't even debatable anymore. Inoue's in a class of his own.
Inoue dominates Alan Picasso, wins every single round, and he defends his undisputed super bantamweight title 4 times in 2025. And this is just a very sharp clinic from Inoue. Using that jab really well to maintain distance, set up his combinations. He's landing that thudding left hook to the body, doing some really good body work. He's landing right hooks up top, 3-4 punch combinations. And Picasso, he didn't really have much of an answer. Occasionally he'd land a jab with a straight right hand, but for the most part, Inoue is just running through him. And Inoue has a great argument to end the year as the new pound-for-pound #1. Now that Crawford retired, it's either him or Usyk. But Usyk is no longer undisputed, only had 1 fight this year. Whereas Inoue, he had 4 undisputed fights, and he's steamrolling the competition. And with this win, and Nakatani also winning, it seems like we're going to get Naoya Inoue versus Junta Nakatani next, May 3rd in the Tokyo Dome. This fight is already agreed, and Inoue said the Japanese fans can expect a big spectacle. And Nakatani, he didn't have the best performance today, got pushed to a big test. Whereas Inoue, he looked very dominant. So I think it's safe to say that Inoue will probably win the fight at this point. But still.
Social media exploded after the fight, and the reactions tell the real story of what we witnessed. User Diego's tweet captured what everyone was thinking. Top-class performance by Naoya Inoue, and much respect to Alan Picasso for holding up for 12 rounds. That respect for Picasso is important because it shows just how devastating Inoue's performance really was. Picasso didn't just survive. He showed real heart and determination, lasting all 12 rounds against someone who could have ended it whenever he wanted. The fight showcased Inoue's explosive power and speed against Picasso's height and defensive style, and honestly, it was like watching a master craftsman at work. In the early rounds, Picasso actually performed well, earning a couple of the first 6 rounds with smart, calculated moves that had some people thinking this might be competitive. He used his taller frame and high guard effectively, occasionally crouching to reduce Inoue's target area in a strategy that showed real boxing intelligence. But as the fight progressed, Inoue's class became undeniable. He was landing sharp jabs that snapped Picasso's head back, precise left hooks to the body that had Picasso grimacing, and a powerful right hand that somehow found its way around Picasso's guard no matter how tight he kept it. Despite Picasso's resilience and tactical adjustments throughout the fight, he simply couldn't match Inoue's speed, accuracy, or strength, and by the final bell, it was clear we'd witnessed something special.
Shitting on this fight because it wasn't a competitive fight, and I knew that. Picasso is not on that level. Picasso does not have the punching power to really trouble Inoue. And on top of that, Picasso, what was kind of crazy about Picasso was like early on in the fight, he started out pretty good. I gave him like 2 rounds early in the fight. Like I gave him 2 of the first 6 rounds. But as the fight wore on, he fought more like a Paul Butler type of fight. Very gun shy, calculated, in the high guard. Just didn't give Inoue a lot to work with. And Inoue will land a lot of jabs. Inoue will land a lot of left hooks to the body. But Inoue had a very hard right hand around the guard. Him and his team looked like they game planned against that right hand. They kind of like, you know what? If you're gonna knock us out or beat us tonight, you're not gonna knock us out with that punch like you done to everyone else. And there were times where Picasso being the significantly taller guy at 5'8", would be crouching down and getting lower than Inoue, making himself a smaller target. So he was doing some good things here and there, but overall, class tells over time. Inoue was just too quick, too fast, too sharp, and too good, but he just couldn't get the stoppage. So that being said, a lot of people are gonna hold it against Inoue because he's held to such a high standard, and I get it. You know, with great power comes great responsibility. But I'm impressed, man. I'm very impressed with Inoue. Just even though I give him some flack for, you know, fighting some guys I just don't think are on his level this year. You know, to fight 4 times in a calendar year, you know, and defend the undisputed title 4 times in a calendar year, that's unprecedented. And he's the first fighter since Larry Holmes to successfully defend the ring belt 4 times in a calendar year. This is the first time it's happened since 1983. So we saw history.
But here's where the conversation gets really interesting, and it's something most analysts are afraid to discuss. While everyone's praising Inoue's explosiveness and power, especially for his weight class, some experts are quietly pointing out potential limits as he considers moving up in weight. Right now, Inoue dominates lighter opponents with sharp combinations and relentless body shots that we saw destroy Picasso. But the question everyone's whispering is whether that power translates effectively against bigger fighters who can absorb punishment. At higher weights like 130 pounds, Inoue could face stronger punches from naturally bigger men, and that presents challenges we haven't seen him deal with yet. His athleticism and skill are absolutely unquestioned, nobody debates that. But the physics of boxing are unforgiving, and there are legitimate questions about how his style and power will adapt against larger, harder-hitting opponents who won't crumble from body shots that would drop super bantamweights. Some fighters are great because they dominate their division. Others are great because they can dominate any division. The question for Inoue is which type of greatness he represents, and honestly, that might be the only mystery left in his incredible career.
For them low weight classes, but when he gets in there with guys that can absorb his punch, like Picasso was absorbing his punches, he was hitting them in the body, combinations, teeing off on them. Inoue is athletic, he's explosive, but his power translates to those little guys. As he moves up in weight, going to 130, not happening. If he goes up to 130 pounds, he's going to lose. He can't deal with those punches. He can't deal. First of all, we've seen him on the canvas multiple times. Second of all, his power is not going to translate with those guys. They're going to absorb his punches. Now, what he does have going for him is his hand speed. He's still got that hand speed, and maybe that hand speed will translate. Maybe it'll slow him down. But it just showed me that he's going to always be a great fighter for those low weight classes. He's a super bantamweight champion. But 130 pounds, nah. And he might have trouble with Nakatani. Nakatani is going to absorb his punches, but Nakatani is going to be a way better puncher than David Picasso was tonight. And yeah, I think Inoue could be in trouble with him. I still think that he's just so fast, so explosive, so quick, and has a high ring IQ that he still beats Nakatani, but it's going to be a tough fight.
So there you have it. Joe Rogan's calling him a legend, Usyk showing genuine respect, Mike Tyson's comparing him to Prime Pacquiao, and the numbers prove he's operating on a different level than everyone else in his division. Inoue just put on a masterclass that had the entire boxing world taking notice, from podcast hosts to heavyweight champions to Hall of Fame analysts. This isn't just about one dominant performance anymore. This is about a fighter who's redefining what's possible in modern boxing. But here's my question for you, and I want you to drop this in the comments. Is Naoya Inoue already the greatest super bantamweight of all time, or does he need to move up and prove himself against bigger fighters to cement that legacy? And honestly, do you think anyone in his current division can even compete with him, or is it time for him to chase history at higher weights? If this breakdown opened your eyes to just how special this performance really was, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into boxing's biggest moments, And hit that notification bell because Inoue's next fight is going to be absolutely insane. I'll see you in the next one. What's absolutely fascinating is how Inoue's fighting style has evolved throughout his career, and most casual fans don't realize they're watching the culmination of years of strategic development. Early in his career, Inoue was primarily known as a knockout artist who would walk through opponents with raw power and aggression. But against Picasso, we saw something completely different, a mature, calculated fighter who was picking his shots with the precision of a chess Inoue. Boxing historian Thomas Inoue pointed out that Inoue's footwork has become so refined that he's essentially turned boxing into geometry, creating angles that shouldn't exist and finding openings that other fighters can't even see. The way he moved against Picasso wasn't just impressive, it was educational, like watching a professor teach a masterclass in ring generalship. Here's what's really wild about the Picasso fight that nobody's talking about. According to Compu Box data, Inoue's accuracy rate was an absolutely ridiculous 47%, meaning nearly half of every punch he threw found its target. To put that in perspective, elite fighters are happy with accuracy rates in the low 30s. Floyd Mayweather, arguably the most precise boxer of his generation, averaged around 46% accuracy throughout his career. Inoue is matching Mayweather's precision while throwing significantly more punches and carrying devastating knockout power. That combination shouldn't be possible according to traditional boxing wisdom. Usually when fighters focus on volume, their accuracy drops. When they focus on power, their speed decreases. Inoue has somehow mastered all three elements simultaneously, creating a style that's forcing boxing analysts to rewrite their understanding of what's achievable in the sport. The international boxing community is starting to recognize something that Japanese fans have known for years. Inoue might be operating on a level that transcends traditional pound-for-pound rankings. British boxing expert Steve Bunce made a statement that's been circulating through boxing circles for weeks. He said watching Inoue fight is like watching someone play a video game on easy mode while everyone else is struggling on expert difficulty. That analogy might sound casual, but it captures something profound about how effortless Hauser makes elite-level boxing look. Against Picasso, there were moments where seemed to be thinking 3 moves ahead, setting up combinations that wouldn't pay off until 2 rounds later. His ring IQ has reached a level where he's not just reacting to what his opponents do, he's controlling what they're going to do before they even know it themselves. Let's talk about something that's been bothering boxing purists, and it's a conversation that needs to happen. Inoue's dominance is so complete that it's actually hurting the super bantamweight division's marketability in some ways. Promoters are struggling to find opponents who can provide competitive fights, and that creates a weird situation where the best fighter in the division might be too good for his own commercial success. Eddie Hearn mentioned in a recent interview that while Inoue is incredible to watch, the predictable nature of his victories makes it challenging to build dramatic narratives around his fights. Fans tune in expecting domination, and Inoue delivers it so consistently that the suspense is gone. It's a problem that only affects truly exceptional athletes. They become victims of their own excellence. Michael Jordan faced similar issues in basketball, and Tiger Woods experienced it in golf. When you're operating on a level that makes competition look one-sided, even your victories can feel anticlimactic to casual observers. But here's where the Inoue story takes a fascinating turn that most people don't know about. His training methods are completely unconventional compared to traditional boxing camps, and they might explain why he's achieving results that seem impossible. Inoue works with movement specialists who normally train dancers and gymnasts, incorporating balance and coordination exercises that have nothing to do with traditional boxing drills. His strength and conditioning coach uses techniques borrowed from martial arts, track and field, and even rock climbing to develop the explosive power that makes his punches so devastating. The precision we saw against Picasso comes from thousands of hours practicing on specialized equipment that measures punch accuracy to the millimeter. Inoue's team has essentially created a scientific approach to boxing that treats every aspect of his performance as a variable that can be optimized through data and technology. The psychological warfare aspect of Inoue's fights is something that doesn't show up in statistics, but becomes obvious when you watch his opponent's body language. Against Picasso, you could see the exact moment in round 4 when Picasso realized he was in over his head. It wasn't a specific punch or combination, it was the accumulation of being outclassed in every single exchange. Sports psychologist Dr. Michael Larden, who's worked with several world champions, explained that facing Inoue creates a unique type of mental pressure because there's no obvious weakness to target. Most fighters can find something to build a strategy around. Maybe their opponent's footwork is sloppy, or they drop their hands, or they fade in later rounds. With fanbase, opponents enter the ring knowing they need to be perfect for 12 rounds while facing someone who rarely makes mistakes. That psychological burden is crushing before the first bell even rings. What's really interesting is how Inoue's success is changing the way young fighters approach their development. Boxing gyms across Japan, and increasingly around the world, are studying his techniques and trying to incorporate elements of his style into their training programs. But here's the problem. Inoue's success isn't just about technique. It's about the rare combination of physical gifts, mental approach, and years of specialized training that can't be easily replicated. His hand speed is partially genetic. His power comes from perfect biomechanics developed over decades, and his ring intelligence reflects an understanding of boxing that most fighters never achieve. Coaches are learning that while they can teach Inoue's techniques, they can't create another Inoue. It's like trying to teach someone to paint like Picasso. You can learn the brushstrokes, but you can't replicate the genius. The economics of Inoue's career represent something unique in modern boxing, and it's reshaping how promoters think about building stars in lighter weight classes. Traditionally, fighters below 135 pounds struggled to generate the pay-per-view numbers and gate receipts that create boxing superstars. But Inoue has proven that exceptional talent can transcend weight class limitations. His fights are drawing viewers who normally only watch heavyweight bouts, and his merchandise sales in Japan rival those of much bigger fighters. Promoters are starting to realize that skill and entertainment value matter more than size when it comes to building a global Inoue. Inoue's success is opening doors for other talented smaller fighters who previously would have been overlooked by major promotional companies. He's essentially created a blueprint for how technical excellence and dominant performances can build a brand that transcends traditional boxing demographics. The technical breakdown of Inoue's defensive skills reveals another layer of his greatness that casual fans might miss. While everyone focuses on his offensive fireworks, his defensive fundamentals are equally impressive. Against Picasso, Inoue was hit cleanly only 23 times in 12 rounds, and most of those shots were jabs that barely registered. His head movement is so subtle that it's almost invisible in real time, but slow-motion replays show him slipping punches by millimeters while setting up his own counters. Former world champion Paulie Malignaggi, who built his career on defensive excellence, said watching Inoue's defense is like studying a masterclass in efficiency. Every movement serves multiple purposes. A slight lean to avoid a jab becomes the first step of a counter combination. A small pivot to escape pressure creates the angle for a devastating body shot. Inoue has achieved something that very few fighters ever master: the ability to be simultaneously elusive and aggressive without compromising either aspect of his game. Looking ahead to 2026, the boxing world is buzzing with speculation about potential superfights that could define Inoue's legacy. The most intriguing possibility is a move up to 130 pounds to challenge for titles in the super featherweight division. Champions like Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia have expressed interest in facing Inoue, and those fights would generate the kind of mainstream attention that creates boxing legends. But there's also talk of Inoue potentially facing the winner of upcoming unification bouts in his current division, though honestly, it's hard to imagine anyone presenting a serious challenge at super bantamweight. The most fascinating scenario involves Inoue potentially facing multiple opponents in the same year across different weight classes, similar to what Manny Pacquiao did during his prime. That kind of ambitious schedule would cement his status as one of the greatest fighters of any era, but it would also represent risks that could derail an otherwise perfect career trajectory.